My name's Keith Mallinson. I'm from WiseHarbor. I'm an industry analyst and commercial consultant in the cellular sector. Well, actually, trends, it gives the implication that things are just kind of gradually moving in some kind of direction. You just want to know how fast. But actually, I think with mobile broadband, it's about turning points and discontinuities and disruptions, because mobile broadband is actually something that's going to transform the cellular sector quite dramatically. Initially, 3G was actually quite a disappointment. A lot of money was spent on it. In Europe, for example, about 150 billion just in spectrum for the millennial spectrum auctions. And all it really did initially was provide additional capacity for voice, relatively low cost in the network, at any rate, voice capacity. From a consumer's point of view, it had really very little to offer. So, you look at these two devices here, around 2004, you may recall, the hot device to have was the Razor, right? Who owned a Razor? That's right. The device on the left was concurrent. It was clunky, ugly, it was a battery hog. It was actually rather more costly at the wholesale level than the device on the right. So the carriers, to get people to take them, had to subsidize even more heavily to get people to use these things. And interestingly, 3 in the UK entered the market initially with video telephony and these kind of advanced services as its value proposition, but very, very rapidly had to completely change its strategy to being the low-cost offering. And now it shows that half the base are actually using mobile broadband on a daily basis and such like. So now it's transformed from being the old problem of there being the 3G capability that no one was really using for anything other than voice, to really embracing mobile broadband and using it on their smartphone devices and such like. These are the sorts of things that users are showing that they're dissatisfied with. So coverage comes up as number one. From a customer's point of view, I think if they can't get service, they don't always really know whether it's a coverage issue or reliability of congested network or such like. But these are the sorts of things. A lot of them are to do with the service quality. Price is clearly in there as well. So these are some of the things that the carriers have to address. The historic costs. I did some investigations into this. The historic costs, if you look at it in terms of capacity, maybe $100 per gigabyte in networks. That kind of backward-looking cost is really irrelevant and absolutely not applicable as you go forward. We're now talking about, and it is possible to achieve marginal costs for additional capacity on the networks, maybe as low as $1 per gigabyte. And it needs to be that low, and it needs to be going lower if we're going to support the massive increases in data that we're seeing. And it is indeed very disruptive. So, for example, there's a greenfield operator in Russia called Yota that is mobile broadband only. It has no legacy voice network. And part of its objective is to make its network of high enough quality in terms of latency and performance, to carry over-the-top services such as Skype. So there it will be in direct competition to the existing mobile network. So that is the competitive challenge that has to be faced in exactly the same way as the old wireline telcos have had to recognize their voice cash cows are declining and people are doing Vonage and people are doing Skype over their broadband internet connections. If you go to many mobile broadband presentations, it normally comes up again and again. Well, what I'm suggesting is it's not an inevitability, this scissor effect. It's got to be banished. It really is the outcome of the old historical pricing approach. As I said, the big problem, the historic problem with 3G initially was that no one was really using it much. So they put in flat rate pricing, which was easy to understand, very simple to administer, and hoped that people would use it. And yeah, they did. So you face this effect that you've got escalating demand, but revenues are in danger of plateauing if you don't do something about pricing it in a way that enables you to generate incremental revenues from incremental use. And we're going to see a migration away from these flat rates. It is interesting. It's very tactically attractive for a newcomer. I mean, Clearwire would be an example of this. It opens a service where it has lots of capacity and not many customers. It's very appealing in terms of attracting customers to say, we've got a high-performance network and we'll tariff it on a flat-rate basis. But if you have any experience of services such as Clearwire in areas, once they get loaded up with demand, that performance can go down. And mobile broadband is going to give us a plethora of new devices. The whole tablet revolution, I think, is quite fascinating. Other sorts of devices are going to come. I mean, tablets a year ago, the category didn't really even exist. And look how it's changed things. And spectrum, as ever, is going to be very, very important. So, thank you very much indeed.